All right, everyone, we are back. I believe we have sorted out our connection issues. So in front of the camera here, we have Captain Jan Miles and second mate Siobhan Innes. And Siobhan, why don't you just do a very quick reintroduction of yourself?
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Siobhan. Originally from Michigan. Moved back here from Portland, Oregon.
And if you guys were tuned in on our previous live video, we're in the midst of a conversation about watch leading and what that's like. So why don't you guys take it away?
So you come down below and you're informing me of something.
Mm-hmm.
What's my response?
Well, I try to give you all of the details at the first go. If I have missed any of those details or clarifying words, you ask me, well, what about this and what about that, to make sure that I'm painting a very clear, concise picture for you.
So when I'm asking those questions, is it, well, what's that experience like? I mean, are you feeling like I'm sort of not listening?
No.
And therefore,
Well, I have to make sure you're awake first sometimes. And then, depending on, you don't like surprises as much as I don't. So sometimes, things creep up and I'm like, oh, hey, so this is happening. And then...
when you say things, what would be that kind of a thing?
There, like a fishing boat with no lights on in the middle of the night.
Okay.
Like, oh, hi.
Okay.
Hey, this
Right.
this popped up.
So when I'm asking my questions, what's that, in terms of information for you to understand, what's that experience? How would you describe that experience?
Sobering.
What?
Well, I just something pops up and I'm like, oh, okay. I like have a list of important things to tell you, like position, direction, speed, and I just want to like make sure I've got all that information when I come and wake you up.
What's the stress like? Do you think I believe you?
Yes. Yeah, no, I think you believe me. I think, I don't know, it's case by case. I think the stress is like, am I seeing this right? Is this actually a fishing boat? Like, do I have all the information correct? Because there's a lot of other variables, that go into account when I come down with new information, like, wind speed and sail trim and course steered, and, if we're tracking where we're going and stuff like that. So just want to...
So when we come to the phrase in ship operations, there's this thing called bridge resource management.
Mm-hmm.
It's relatively numerous words for basically teamwork.
Yeah.
So is this exchange experience that you've known numerous times being a watch leader aboard Pride, is this exchange experience something that is teamwork?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm your extra set of eyes on deck. So, relay things to you.
Cool. All right. Okay. What would you like to share about you?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing. Ah, Siobhan.
Oh. I don't know. What do you want to know?
Well, first of all, as a skipper, having the confidence of that communication is really, really important.
Yeah.
And so you're the eyes and ears and calculating machine for the period of time that you're watch leading. So I am looking for the type of information I get to evaluate it with the business of what's bogus, what's not bogus. And that's also a measure between what's a little less concerning versus a little more concerning. You have always been very detailed. You've always been great at painting the picture and been patient with me when I'm a little bit persistent about a detail before I come on deck. I mean, when there's no threat and you don't see the threat as being immediate, I don't necessarily rush up on deck. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
You've been very good at sticking to it and not getting all scared and running away. So I appreciate that.
Good.
And you've also been very proactive about coming and having this conversation. So using me as a resource, that's the team part.
Yeah.
You've been seeing it, you've been watching it, now you're looking for verification that your evaluation process is sound, and to what degree you think your evaluation is accurate to the actual potential for threat or change. So no, I appreciate that candor you bring down, and that's what I'm looking for with all watch leaders is let's have this conversation. This is not a transfer of command. This is a conversation about managing the ship, and so my compliments. Thank you.
Oh wow, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Siobhan.
Yeah.
So you guys touched on this a little bit, but what is the watch system that Pride uses while underway? And what are some other watch systems for contrast?
We're using a 3-team approach. So we have the first mate, the second mate, and the bosun as watch leaders. And that means we can use any number of hour sequences. We typically stick with the 4 on and then 8 hours off. So that's a way of managing the ship when she's in status quo.
Sure.
When it comes to doing some changes, we'll look for the watches getting ready to come on, the 4 hours before they actually come on, to come and give assistance in terms of physical labor. But basically, the 4 hours you've been on watch, the next 4 hours is you are left alone, you are undisturbed. And then the second 4 hours off, the last 4 hours of the 8 hours off, is your own. You can be asleep, but you're willing to be on short call to come up and give a hand with sail handling, which we generally keep to the watch change rather than the middle of the watch. Now, there are a lot of systems out there. There's the Swedish system, the modified Swedish system, where you do sort of concentrating watch times during the daylight hours. And if it's summertime and you're high latitude, you can get 18 hours or more daylight. And so you might do a 6 hour and a 6 hour and then 3-4 hours, or you might do a 5 hour and a 6 hour and a 5 hour and then a couple of 4 hours. And so that goes around this business of the 24 hours. We stick with the 4 on and 8 off because everybody's getting the same period of time off and the same period of time on, and their biological alignment with that.
Yeah, and I've noticed, especially on some longer transits, you get into a routine, so your sleep patterns are a little bit better. Your body's expecting what's coming rather than just being jostled about.
Right.
This next question is coming from Robert Wheeler, captain up on Schooner Adventure there. What is the importance of true wind when sailing?
It's an important device in modern era, more so than maybe in the non-electronic era.
First of all, what is true wind?
Yeah,
for those non-sailors out here.
So when any vessel any vehicle on the water is moving, the feeling of the wind is called apparent. Now that's going to, as your speed increases, that is going to be much more different than the original wind direction when you were stationary. So when you're stationary, when you feel the wind, that represents the true wind direction that is an atmospheric a reality. But when you move through the fluid and you're accelerating across it, then what happens is the feeling of that direction changes based on the fact that you're moving. It's a vector thing. Now, when it comes to sail trim, when you're sailing, you're adjusting your sails according to the apparent wind because that's the effect that's happening to the ship. Now, when it comes to managing the wind for best sailing. When going to windward and you have modern electronics on board, if you have the ability to keep assessing true wind electronically, so you have a paddle wheel, it can have a computer between the paddle wheel and the compass, and it can spit out 2 bits of information. You can see the measure of apparent wind, or you can see the measure of true wind, the assessment of true wind. When you're going to windward, using true wind, digitally speaking, as a frame of reference, will keep you closer to the best performance to windward. The moment you trim away, you ease away, you head away, and you retrim, then everything's apparent. And when you have a flag at the top and you're using that and you're going to windward, it's very helpful, but it can be a bit of a liar in the sense that if you're turning a little bit away from being close wind, the boat accelerates. So the angle of the flag never changes because the apparent wind angle never changes, but now you're not sailing to windward. And it's thrilling.
Yeah.
The boat's leaning over, and you're going
Feels like
that.
you're going fast.
Hey, Cat, we're really doing this weather thing very well, huh? No, you're not. So get back up there. And so, from an instrument point of view, when that's available, anybody can steer then to windward if they mind the instrument.
Yeah.
Whereas if we don't, it gets to be harder and harder to bring on new people to do the steering.
Yeah.
So that's why we have adopted the electronics early on, is it helps broaden the number of folks that can more quickly learn how to sail to windward. So we find that very useful.
We've been talking a fair amount about electronics this morning. So what other electronics? What electronics does Pride carry? Why do we carry them, and what's their usefulness?
Well, when we started out with the ship new, we carried the same equipment the old Prestel had. So we had a long-range radio, a single sideband, had the normal shortwave stuff, which is VHF, marine VHF. We had a boat speed indicator. And we, over the years with the old boat, moved from not having any electronic navigation to putting on board Loran C, and then the earliest of the Transat satellite stuff. When it came to the second boat, we wound up with GPS right on board. We went with wind indicator and boat speed indicator. So we didn't, not at first. So we only had boat speed at first for several years, like 4 or 5 years. We only had boat speed. We didn't do the electronics until mid-90s because it's fairly expensive. And of course radar. This first boat didn't had a radar, but it was about hiding the antenna, so it only came up during the times near coast.
Oh, wild.
Yeah, so, yeah. You put on a post, you put it on top of the post, it's in the way of the staysail. So,
that's an adventure.
Now she was never a passenger carrier, so it's not like we were violating any regulations. This is just a matter of dealing with getting the mission done and having some flexibility. With the second boat, not only were we following regulations for reasons of being able to carry passengers who would pay to be on board, but we also took the opportunity of mounting a radar antenna on the mainmast, and so we started out with along with GPS and we had radar and long range radio and short range radio. We then advanced over time to include satellite communications. We've had over a period of time. We've had 2 different versions, and that's mostly email. It's not live and phone call. That's helped with medical emergency possibilities where we can talk to a doctor. But other than that, we're carrying continue to carry long range, short range. Of course, there's emergency stuff such as EPIRBs. There's a ship's EPIRB. We have EPIRBs in the rafts. Because one of the things that was a takeaway for me with the loss of the first Pride was it happened so quickly. You couldn't do anything like grab a ditch bag. It was just going, gone. So you're left treading water. So putting a certain vital equipment in that instance in the RAS meant that there was a greater chance, possibly in a future event, of similar speed.
Yeah, the life rafts are designed to float free.
And that was true with the old boat.
Yeah.
That was true with the old boat. In fact, that's what they did. In fact, they did not get manhandled overboard. There was an effort to try to do that in the midst of the tragedy and the capsize, but in the end, they couldn't actually do it themselves. And as the hull sank, those two rafts got released. They came to the surface. So, from that point of view, we follow all of that the same we did with the old boat as we're doing now. But the difference was we didn't have a EPIRB in the raft. Today we have an EPIRB. It had been since the life of this boat. Put an EPIRB in the rafts.
Yeah. Seeing as you've been, dealing with the evolution of electronics and technology for quite a while, what's been a component that's impressed you with how it's evolved and where it's at now?
I would say the ability to integrate without having one single unit. When it comes to really small craft, you can get all this kind of information. It could be radar and electronic charts and depth information, all in one unit. What we're able to do is network units, and that means if something goes down, we don't lose everything. Mm-hmm. But we enjoy having a network. Through the network, we enjoy having this consolidation of information. So having AIS on radar means that we get a very early warning of big commercial traffic, assuming we're doing the discipline of ranging up and down with the radar. Mm-hmm. And because of our deck configuration, that's actually an early warning device. Because the chart is actually down below. The electronic chart and the paper chart is down below. We don't have a sheltered space on deck, so we go down below. Now, that's about 7 feet of travel, and for those of us who are healthy, it's a good way to stay healthy.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have that early warning from a deck view. When we get down below, we have the graphical interface. We also have a broad chart table with a paper chart on it. So we have at hand what used to be pieces of information are now network together, and we get the whole picture pretty quickly by looking at the electronic chart, because the AIS is represented there, and zooming in and out very quickly rather than shifting charts is a bit of a trick. You have to get used to that. The business of zooming and panning is a process. You have to develop that. And then, of course, horizontal navigation, a lot of folks just see it from a bird's eye view. I'm seeing it from the point of view of horizontal navigation because that was my background. And so I think that I gain a lot out of the information that other people are not recognizing that is there, easy to see. So I'm enjoying the networking without being committed to a single unit that could fail. So it's been, and when it comes to being connected to the world, getting grids for weather, being able to put them in is very helpful. Being able to get the actual weather service charts, the fax maps offshore by satellite if the horizontal single sideband routine is failing because of signal problems, with propagation. Having that ability to go to the satellite, I find that very, very easy in terms of the flexibility of gaining information. Weather information is critical.
Well, and the weather information has a lot of detail that's coming through on those satellite connections. We're coming to the end of episode 5.5 here. Thank you for those of you that rejoined us through our technical difficulties. I just want to thank anyone who has donated. That's very much appreciated. That helps us keep doing these Coffee with Captains. And we have a special edition of Coffee with Andy Shell of 59 North next Tuesday. So tune in with that. And Captain Miles, do you have any departing words?
Happy May Day and stay diligent.
All right.